And we're live with the last Google Hangout. Now, this is not the last podcast for the channel. This is just the last Hangout we'll be using Google because Google's going away. So I'll have to use a new streaming service, which doesn't really bother me, but so today's podcast, we're going to be focusing primarily on the news that Obsidian is porting over the Outer Worlds to the Switch. I'm not getting it on the Switch. I'm going to get it on PC, but you know, there you go. So isn't that interesting? So with that being said, I'm going to hold the fort down while we wait for the other stuff going on. So basically, the overall gist of this podcast is that we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Western developed RPGs. So I guess I can start it off until the other panelist gets here, where I'm just going to be talking about some of my favorite Western developed RPGs. I guess it starts with Baldur's Gate. Now, I kind of have a different introduction to Baldur's Gate, the Baldur's Gate games than other people. I did not play the I didn't play the first Baldur's Gate. Believe it or not, I really didn't. I didn't play the first Baldur's Gate when I first started playing video games. The first the first time I played Baldur's Gate wasn't the actual game. I played a D&D module based on Baldur's Gate. So basically, we got to do whatever the hell we wanted based on Baldur's Gate, but it wasn't Baldur's Gate itself. You know, I remember playing Neverwinter Nights. And it was nice. So, see, I remember playing, let's see, back in the day, all that type of cool shit. My favorite, believe it or not, my favorite Western developed RPGs, like video game based RPGs, pretty much have been, believe it or not, the Mass Effect franchise, Dragon Age, or at least the first 2 Dragon Age games. So Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age Awakening, which is the expansion of Dragon Age Origins. I did not like Dragon Age 2 or Dragon Age Inquisition. I thought those two games were trash, which is kind of sad, really, because you know. So that was just me. So, I mean, like I never was into that type of title that much. But yeah, I'll tell you some of the lesser known Western RPGs I liked. Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, surprisingly good, despite its flaws. Surprisingly, which is one of those weird things where so anyway, yeah, I'm kind of like on the fence about the whole damn thing at this point. So basically, the big thing is
And sorry about that. Hello?
yeah, I'm trying to get Pinky into the podcast because apparently his Google Hangout isn't working.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, if he has Discord, he can use the Discord, the voice channel on BS Busters to get in. Anyway, yeah, I was telling the viewers basically how I didn't really play the original Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights when it came out. I played after the fact.
I think I'm the only one that played Baldur's Gate, and that was on the PS2.
Really? I don't think that was Baldur's Gate.
I was about to say that. And what was that?
It was on if it was on console, what you were probably playing was Champions of Norath, or what's it called? I know the games you're talking about, but those aren't Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate's PC only, and now it's like tablets, but it's still like a very PC.
I remember playing the PlayStation 2 variant, so
yeah,
probably
that was like a Diablo clone with RPG, because there were 2 games where because they used the same engine. If I remember correctly, they were made by Atari, and in the first game, if you entered in a code, you could play as Dritz Dravden, the Dark Elf Ranger. And he was like a super character because basically he was insanely OP as fuck. And the second game was like a direct continuation of the first game. Yeah, I know the game you're talking about, but that isn't Baldur's Gate. That's when people say Baldur's Gate, they mean the games made by BioWare that were on PC. I think they may have ported. Let me check. Let me check my sources because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure those were PC only. Baldur's Gate. I mean, it was a D&D. Yeah, it was developed by BioWare and published by Interplay Entertainment. A Camarero. So let's see what. Yeah, so it used the Infinity Engine and for its graphics, and it was used in other Forgotten Realms licensed games. It used AD&D, aka Second Edition rules, and it was used in the Icewind Dale's games, which I remember. And yeah, it was PC only. Like I know the game you're talking about, but that wasn't. I think it was called Champions of Norath, or. Yeah, it was called Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that wasn't a Baldur's Gate game. That game, because I remember playing that game. It was that game was what's the word I'm looking for? That was the game that was like a Diablo game where you could choose to be you could be a barbarian, a wizard, a ranger. I think there was a fourth character class, and there was a secret character. You could be Drizzt Drowden. I don't know why anyone cares about Drizzt Drowden, because, like, the only reason anyone gives a shit about Drizzt Drowden is because R.A. Salvatore made a lot of money basically writing that character, but not because he's a good character. I mean, you know, whatever.
Finally, how's it going, guys?
How's it going?
Took a while.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on with.
It's weird. It's like the last time you can use Google Hangouts, and that last time it wants to fuck up, you know. Get that last gasp of fuck upness.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, the game you're talking about is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, which was created by Snowblind Studios for the PS2, Xbox, Nintendo, GameCube, and GBA. Yeah.
Take off and try to get into the hole, mimicking the top speed about 25 miles per hour. All right, Enrico, let's talk about pattern of movement here. What should I be doing? This is the cancer. So it's zigzagging.
But that's the game you're thinking of. I mean, it's not a bad game. It's just not like.
I read the shark research for this one. I believe it's Christmas.
I did not know Obsidian Entertainment made Neverwinter Nights 2.
I was about to say that would be interesting.
I didn't know that. Like I knew Obsidian made a lot of games, made a lot of RPGs. Obsidian is more prolific than you might believe. But speaking of prolific as fuck video game companies, so yeah, I was talking earlier about how one of my favorite RPGs that's not really made by a known studio. They only made one studio, and it was 31 Studios, which is Kurt Schilling's studio that he made in Rhode Island that basically did not make any money whatsoever. Basically because it was fantastically badly run. Like they wanted to make an MMO, and then they busted a lot of money trying to make an MMO instead of making a smaller project first, prove yourself, and then you make a big project. You don't start out with a big project and then make a small project.
Who does that?
Someone who does not know anything about working in private industry, but that's neither here nor there. They made Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which is a surprisingly good game. Someone have their TV on in the background?
Thanks.
Oh, that's me. I'm watching Shark Week this week.
All right.
Are you?
Yeah, but so basically, yeah. For me, my favorite. So we're talking about some of our favorite Western developed RPGs, computer or video game RPGs. So I already said 2 or 3 of mine. Jewel was indisposed, so Jewel, you go, and then Pinky will go, and then we'll go further into it.
That's a bit weird because I'm not entirely sure of them, but the only RPG that I can think of would be the Baldur's Gate one that was for the PlayStation 2, but otherwise I basically kept with the Eastern ones.
Oh Lord! So only JRPGs for you, huh?
Yeah, though the Western RPGs never felt any real goodness to me. I mean, seriously, it's like I know that they're trying to make you, the player, be the main character, but in a sense, it kind of is a lackluster shot. At least to me.
I mean, that's your opinion. I mean, for me, my problem with JRPGs, by and large, especially JRPGs now, is like the best RPG I ever played was Chrono Trigger. But
that's very high of a standard of you. I'm telling you that now.
Well, here's the thing, though. Chrono Trigger is all about player agency. Because basically, there's so many choices that you can make in Chrono Trigger that affect what the end game is going to be. There's side quests you can do that change the world around you. Whereas a lot of JRPGs now are very fucking scripted. It's like this is an unwinnable fight. You'll do the narrative we want. It's like you're gonna go down this path whether you want it or not. Whereas Western RPGs, now have basically been, well, if you have the skill, you can basically do all types of things that basically change how things can go. That unwinnable fight that you thought the first time you played through, well, if you know what you're doing, you can actually kick that character's ass, and it changes. It's like, oh shit, this dude kicked my ass. You can kill that character early, or changes your relationship with that character later on. And I like that in Western RPGs. I wish more JRPGs took that.
I don't think that's worth it. Seriously, if it's JRPGs are usually about story, and if you try to break the story, then it's kind of a mute point playing through it.
There are some really good JRPGs that kind of how can I put this? That have a good story, but also incorporate that your choices matter, your side quests matter. For example, one of the reasons I love Monolith Soft is that they do that with their JRPGs. Like, if you play Bait and Katos, your choices, the side quests you do in that game really affect the overall game. Like, a side quest that you do in order to bring this guy's relatives, this old man who's dying, his relatives, to his house, so that they can see their grandfather and their relative eventually before he passes on. You don't make it before he passes on, but they're all there and they celebrate his life after he passes on. That's a major thing. You help these people's lives. You don't have to do that side quest. You can completely ignore it. But it's like your choices there matter. There's another side quest where you have to go and you have to bring all these animals to this island in order to create an ark in case things don't work out in your plan to defeat the ultimate bad guy in the game. And those choices, they matter. Like, all these little side quests you can do that affect the overall world and change up how things work really interesting. Like you feel like you actually have an effect on the gaming world instead of you going down this same fucking path while they tell you a story that you've played a million times. You know, if you play Xenoblade Chronicles, the first Xenoblade Chronicles, there were a lot of side quests like that where the choices you made affected the overall world. Or Xenoblade Chronicles X definitely had that, where you basically did side quests where it was like, okay, like there was a side quest in that game, a major one actually, well, not major, but it affected the gaming world where you basically had to create a water reclamation plant. And then it got infected with parasites, and you could save some of those people, or you couldn't save some of those people, and the choices you made greatly affected the overall game and how people interacted with you. Like, I love that type of shit. I think a more JRPG should take aspects, especially when you consider JRPGs wouldn't exist without Western RPGs, like Ultima. Like, well, they wouldn't.
I'm sorry, but that actually feels funny to me.
It's not funny. It's a
you
fact.
realize that JRPGs exist to be more simplified from Western RPGs.
Well, that's true, but the grandfather of JRPGs is Dragon Quest, created by Enix back in the day before they ever merged. And if you talk to the people who created Dragon Quest and the games that would eventually become Dragon Quest, people have talked to them. Like, you can go look this up. It's on the internet.
And you're gonna lose because if anything,
I'm not gonna lose because I've read this shit myself. The guy said the dudes who created this game said, "What were we playing that inspired us to create this game?" They said we were playing Ultima on PC. Ultima is a Western RPG developed by fucking.
Yeah, and they wanted to make it more simplified.
Well, yeah, they wanted to make it more simplified, but that's not the point. My point still stands. It was heavily inspired by Ultima. Ultima itself, like, I'm just gonna keep it real. The first Ultima game is like a ripoff of D&D. I'm not gonna lie. It's a computer ripoff of D&D and other popular culture at the time. Like the first Ultima game has lightsabers and a space shuttle and laser guns. It's kind of weird, but I'm not gonna lie, it's a little. But hey, look, listen, you could tell what the dude was playing when he came up with this shit and what he was watching.
D&D.
Like, yeah, he's playing D&D. So yes, the fact still stands. You would not have JRPGs, especially if you play the first Dragon Quest games where they've got like hobbits and dwarves. Like it's simplified, but it's still very much like a D&D game. So, I mean, yes, how's it going?
Oh, sorry.
Well, I made a statement earlier, and people in the podcast thought I was lying or just making shit up, but it's a fact. Like I wouldn't have said that if I didn't have the facts.
Then you lied, but you still lose because D&D is the first.
That's what I said. I said you wouldn't have. That's what I said. I said you wouldn't have JRPGs as we know it if you didn't have D&D because they're based off of D&D, especially.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You said
game.
Ultima was the big reason, and yet
because
inspired by D&D,
because they were inspired by Ultima, which in turn was inspired by D&D. It's like saying you wouldn't exist if your great grandparents didn't exist. It's a fact. Because your great grandparents fucked, their children found someone and fucked, and therefore you're here. Chain of events.
And just like Joel, I haven't played any computer RPGs.
All right. Yeah. So, you guys hear me?
Yes, you've cloned yourself. Are you also on the?
Yeah, I was on the Discord.
Yeah, you might have to leave Discord. Okay,
right.
Okay, it worked. Okay, yeah. It seems I'm the only one. It's you and me are the only people who really play Western RPGs, or who have played Western RPGs. I'm trying not to talk about Fallout 3 or 4 because those games are trash. Those games are so much trash, and I'm not talking about Elder Scrolls either. Because those games are trash too.
So what was the dispute about JRPGs and D&D?
Well, I mean, I made the statement that like you wouldn't have JRPGs if you didn't have D&D, because basically a lot of them kind of took their cues from Western RPGs. Like
yeah, that's true. They use
even
a
one
lot
of
of the
the
dice roll systems.
yeah, even one of the more like even the earliest JRPGs like Wizardry, which was created by a Japanese studio, but it's called Wizardry, which is kind of weird. Like Wizardry and Dragon Quest, stuff like that. Even Final Fantasy, like they took a lot of their cues from Western RPGs, which doesn't bother me. Some people find that offensive. I think that JRPGs have become a little too overly simplified as time has gone on. To me, this is my own personal opinion. But then again, a lot of Western RPGs are becoming too overly simplified for my tastes. I mean, look at Skyrim.
I like you guys talking about your favorite Western JRP or Western RPGs.
Yes.
Well, I guess my favorite is I know it doesn't have the best
I thought
story.
we were talking about computer RPGs.
No, a Western RPG just means RPG made in the West. So any Western RPG. Although the thing is, a lot of the Western RPGs began as computer RPGs. If you're not talking tabletop gaming, which I'm not, because if you go into tabletop gaming, you're going to go down the D&D, Wasteland, GURPS, Shadowrun, Cyberpunk. I mean, there's so many Western RP, and that's just the shit in America. I'm not talking about the shit in Germany that's like even more hardcore. Cybermancer. What were you gonna say, Kenoshi?
I was gonna say Kingdom of Amalur, just because I really like the third-person action fighting. Because I just don't think a lot of Western RPGs do that very well. And it's one of the few games that actually did.
How's it going, Jewel? Is Smash working for you?
Yeah. And sorry if I'm smashing a bit too hard.
I'm not even gonna touch that one.
Very funny.
Phrasing. Not gonna touch it with a 10-foot pole. But yeah. I said that earlier. I said Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning was surprisingly good.
And it's too bad Capernaum couldn't. It's too bad they spent more than spent a lot of money to got themselves in debt and aren't able to make Capernaum, because if it was they would have made an MMO with that fighting system.
They fucked up.
Pretty interesting.
They were going to make the MMO first, and they spent too much money. So they're like, "Oh shit, we'll take some of these assets and make." Like, I would have been happier had they just made Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning a franchise.
Yeah.
So they were make MMOs, and it's like MMOs have to appeal to a broader audience than just a core RPG.
Well, MMOs are it's a very risky endeavor. Probably even more risky than consoles.
I consider it a complex endeavor. I mean, the only RPG that I can think of that I did try to work with was Adventure Quest and Eververse.
Yeah, I remember and Mecha Quest was the. I used to play those games. I used to have a subscription to those games.
You lapsed them?
No, I quit playing them after a while because I was like, this shit. Like the graphics were kind of shit, and it became a money sink because like you basically would pay. Like they had little events, and you pay to get a good mech, you pay to get a good event, you pay to get a good outfit, and it became way too grindy. Like that's my problem with a lot of MMOs is that they get way too fucking grindy. Like and that's too much.
Well, yeah, it's just. I mean, MMOs might even be riskier than
But being too grindy is how you make it.
That's an RPG trope.
Not simplified.
No. Here's the thing. I have nothing against RPG being grindy. In like a single player RPG, because that takes my time. Like I can do that all by myself. MMOs are different because you have to grind with other people, and it's like I'm a solo player. I don't want to grind with other people. Like I don't want to have to go join a guild. I don't want to have to do group events where it's like, well, it's only at this time, and if you don't show up, you don't get like I don't feel like being part of that, because MMOs get you with that fear of missing out. It's like, well, they had the Chinese New Year event where you could get a small little pet dragon. Does the pet dragon fight? No, but you missed it, so you didn't get your pet dragon. I hate that.
This is the thing that makes MMORPGs a double-edged sword. That they have a lot of things to do in there, but they have exclusive events that can kind of burn you.
Yeah. That's what gets on my nerves with a lot of MMOs. That's why I don't like MMOs. Like the only and plus I don't like paying $15-$20 a month to play a game that I may or may not play, especially when most of them, like for me, most of the MMOs, like I play for.
I was gonna make the joke that you're gonna say World of Warcraft was this one.
Well, no. Most of the MMOs I've played, like the story is trash, and so you're playing for the whole, like it's that sense of community. But the thing is, I don't give a shit about community. Like I've never been really into the gaming community for any genre of game. And the games that I really like, there's a community for it. Like I like Western RPGs. Not a lot of people play a lot of Western RPGs. I like JRPGs, and there's a big community for that. But then you got people who like the overly simplified, barely an RPGs like your Pokemon, to an extent, but in a little bit of the opposite direction, your Yokai Watch, stuff like that. And then you got people who like those dense, cakey, deep art JRPGs, like your well, I would say Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy hasn't been an RPG in years. Not really. So it doesn't really do anything for me. I'm just saying, like JRPGs don't really do, like JRPGs for me. Modern JRPGs as they are right now are just overly simplified and too dumbed down, even for me, which is amazing because Western RPGs are getting dumbed down a lot. Not all of them, but the big ones that people know about, like Skyrim. Skyrim is an RPG for dummies because it's overly simplified.
That's the sad thing that I know that kind of stings. But if anything, there's a balance that you have to have between story, game, and gameplay, which is kind of a pain because I see some of these RPGs try to cater out to the simplification to grab the biggest audience.
And it doesn't even become an RPG anymore. It becomes a visual novel with RPG elements. Yeah,
that's the thing that keeps me. That's the thing that I keep on seeing happening in a few games. But if anything, I at least try to watch before I even buy some of them, which is kind of a tricky thing when some of these games are made to are using grinding to pad out the story.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it just depends on what type of gamer you are. Like me, it's like for me, it's like this. Okay, for me, RPGs are like playing chess, right? Chess is a complex game. Like I don't like, if you want, like, for people who say they like JRPGs but they don't like complexity, I'm like, or RPGs in general but they don't like complexity, I'm like, well, why the fuck are you trying to play chess when you don't want to learn how to think 10, 15, 20 moves ahead? You know, go play checkers. And even checkers has a level of complexity because you still have to think at least 5 moves ahead for checkers. You know, go play tic-tac-toe 3 in a row, bitch. You know, if you don't want depth and complexity. Because as long as you get that middle square, you're pretty much unbeatable in tic-tac-toe 3 in a row. You know. So, but yeah, But anyway, yeah. What spurred me to do this podcast on this topic is because Obsidian said they're going to port the Outer Worlds to the Switch, and the game looks kind of like how can I put this nicely? The game looks like a
Fallout game. A traditional Fallout game.
I don't. Yeah, it looks like a traditional Fallout game with a smaller environment, which everyone always thinks that an open world RPG is best. But sometimes having a smaller environment works.
Yeah, it just depends what you're doing and what how you're designing the game.
Yeah,
Games don't benefit from a big open world.
yeah. I mean, look at almost all of Bethesda's games. Like basically, the bigger Bethesda's games have gotten and more detailed they've gotten, the buggier and crappier they've become.
Like a short story. Sometimes some stories don't benefit from being 600 pages long. Sometimes they're better off being 3 to 4 pages long.
Well, I gotta disagree with you on that one. And I'm joking. It's a fair point. It's a fair point. Me personally, my favorite thing is it depends. It depends on what they're doing. Like recently, I was playing Bully. I got it for 24 cents off of a Steam sale, and Bully for me is one of my favorite non-GTA Rockstar games because you're in a small town. Right? It's not this massive open world, but the things they're able to do with that small town. For once, you can find everything. You can find all the collectibles. You can do all the side activities. Like everything is really easy to get to, which is something you don't normally get in a GTA game. Like it became a chore to find all those damn clams, all those damn horseshoes, all those damn gang signs. To find everything in GTA San Andreas was a motherfucker, brother.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn, all this shit. And GTA San Andreas had RPG elements, like you had stats. You could recruit a crew to help you out on missions. You could equip items. So it kind of, I mean, they were mostly cosmetic, but weapons had statistics. So, yeah. So, since we're talking RPGs, anyone here done any tabletop gaming?
That would be me, and I've been through some bad spots for a while.
Yeah. I recently started getting back into Shadowrun for reasons I don't know why, because there's a gaming hobbyist store that's literally like half a block away from one of my locations in DC, and I went there and they were playing Shadowrun, and I rolled up a character and started playing the game with them. And Shadowrun is like, it took the best of a modern of like cyberpunk, and then you combine that with the best of D&D. So it's like it's set in the future, but magic and mythical creatures have come back. So you can have a troll going down the street who also wields a shotgun. A big ass shotgun. That's right. And you'd think that'd be too much, but it's kind of cool. So, but yeah, I'm not that much of a fan. Here's here's the thing. I'm not that much of a fan of new D&D.
I was gonna say that the new D&D is kind of a mixed bag depending on how you run it.
Yeah, I like Pathfinder better. I know that's bad. People are like, why do you like Pathfinder? I'm like, Pathfinder feels more like D&D to me than D&D does at this point, which is kind of weird. And I know some people are like, well, you know, D&D is D&D, the new D&D, the new like 5.0. I know they're not calling it that, but that's basically what it is, 5.0. 5.0 is going back to the basics of D&D. But there's a reason we went to 2.0, because 1.0 was like it was too much. It was too much. And for those of you who don't know what 1.0 versus 2.0, 1.0 D&D, the max level you had for any character was 20. But when I say level 20, I mean you could take 20 levels. I don't mean like you could level up to 20. I mean like if you did a hybrid class, right? Let's say you're saying, well, I'm going to be a battle wizard, right? So if you were going to do a battle wizard, the max level you could be was 20, but that meant you'd have to be like level 8 fighter, level 12 wizard, so that way you could be a battle wizard.
Huh.
Yeah, it was weird like that. It was like, well, Jesus, this is that was D&D in the beginning, and then they did AD&D, where they raised the level cap to where they had like advanced adventures. So if you had a party of characters that were like level 20, or hybrids that were the equivalent of level 20 that had classes that complemented themselves each other, you could basically go on advanced adventures and get experience and items and shit like that. Or you could always, if you were feeling sadistic, you could always play a Gygax module where everything is trying to kill you. It's just a glass of water, not in a Gygax module. It could be water, it could be acid. You never know.
The bottle of misfortune. That was one of the few items I ever gotten.
Yeah.
That you have to drink what's inside the bottle.
Yeah. Gary Gygax created some modules for D&D, and his modules were everything is trying to kill you. Like I've never seen someone who makes a franchise who made a video game system where literally they made shit so fucking hard for
So like Dark Souls.
No, harder than Dark
Souls.
Harder than Dark Souls.
Dark Souls is just cheap.
Like Dark Souls is cheap. Like Dark Souls isn't hard because it's difficult. Dark Souls is hard because the control system is kind of clunky. It's got almost tank-like controls. And like for the type of action that's coming at you, if Dark Souls had a better control scheme, it wouldn't be as difficult a game. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like difficulty should be like, how can I put this? It's kind of like this, right? Like difficulty should be a measure of enemy AI and level design and like behavioral algorithms for the AI. It shouldn't be, oh man, these controls are shit. Which is the problem with Dark Souls, is that it's difficult because of like it's difficult because of cheap level design and shitty controls, not because it's actually that well designed game. Now I'll give you a game that's kind of difficult. If you play any D&D game, like Western developed D&D game on hard mode, like computer game on hard mode, especially like when it's well developed, where enemies are smart now, like they'll flank your ass. Characters will provide cover fire, and characters will flank you. They'll set traps and shit. That's difficult level design because the enemies are fighting smarter, right? Whereas, Dark Souls is like, oh, well, I have a certain amount of stamina and it's clunky as fuck. And, I'm in a room and there's a corner and some dude's going to pop out and fucking stab me 4 or 5 times. Like, it's not very well made. And people are always like, well, it's a good game. It's a hard game. I'm like, I don't think Dark Souls is a hard game. I think it's very cheaply made. Because if you look at some of their later games from Software that are better designed and have a better engine, they aren't nearly as difficult because they have a better engine and they're better designed. Which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But yes, I am a Western RPG fan. I don't think Western RPGs are the end all be all. I do think that there is kind of a happy medium that you could have. Like you could have a Western RPG, you could have a JRPG that has Western RPG choices because we've seen them. I mean, a lot of the games from Monolith Soft are like that. The only one that's not really like that is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I mean, I didn't really like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that much. At least not as much as the first Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenoblade Chronicles X. Although, in the grand scheme of things, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is pretty damn good, though. It's still pretty good. It's not a bad game. It's just not. How can I put this? It's not as good as it could have been. I think the limitations. I think the limitations of the hardware kind of held it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess since we talked about Western RPGs, or at least I talked about Western RPGs, what are some of your guys' favorite JRPGs? And what we'll leave out, I mean, everyone's gonna, a lot of people might say Chrono Trigger. Aside from Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI.
Har.
Well, because it's kind of like people say, well, what's your favorite platformer? A lot of people are going to say Mario or a Donkey Kong Country, but those are Nintendo IPs, so we're going to leave Nintendo off the table because those are really good games. Aside from them.
Sorry, getting off that hook, buddy. Paper Mario and Paper Mario 1000 Year Door.
You said that besides Nintendo because they tend to be higher quality.
Not for their RPGs. Like I like Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. I think it's better than the first Paper Mario, but the first Paper Mario is good, but 1000 Year Door basically takes everything the first Paper Mario did and then kicks it up another notch or two. How's it going, Dragon?
It is the last Google Hangout on air.
Yeah. From now on, we'll have to use Discord. Which I'm okay with using Discord because it might be easier to use Discord because you can get into my Discord server's live chat and just talk through there. As long as you have a microphone, you're good. And a lot of people who have the BS Busters voice channel, you can use the BS Buster voice channel. The only downside is that there's no way you can really put it on who's talking like Google does, which I'm gonna miss Google Hangout when it's gone. It's a shame. Google Hangout had to die so they can get that shitty, what is it, Google Stadia?
And I'm going to say this right now because despite what you say, Red Fox, Google Stadia shouldn't exist at this time because of how much of a beep it is getting right now and how much of a problem it is.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I thought, I'm going to keep it real, okay? When they first announced Google Stadia, it sounded cool, right? Like, oh, well, you can play your games anywhere. But like I said, with my video, literally they pulled a Don Matrick because the more they talked about Google Stadia, the more information they released about Google Stadia, the shittier Google Stadia sounds.
Yeah. And even then, people with logic actually understood what they were trying to pull off and called it out on the spot before even spoke up.
No, you guys sounded more like haters.
Oh, fuck off. I'm gonna say it.
You did sound
Sorry,
like
Ray,
haters.
winning this one
No,
because here's the thing.
you did. You sounded like haters.
And you kept on denying it.
Because you sounded like haters. It's not like okay.
Shut the beep up because you know.
This is a logical argument. Okay. Well, Google Stadia, basically the idea of being able to play your games anywhere before they released any additional information through the power of streaming. That sounds cool on paper.
Oh, come on, Red. You know the downsides, and we told you it before you even heard about it like a white knight.
No, even when we had that podcast, I said, look, the downside, and we all said that the downside is going to be you're going to need good internet to use it.
You're going to need good internet to use it. You don't own the games.
But here's the thing, though.
I called it off.
For any streaming service, you're going to need for any streaming service. I mean, for gaming, you need a better internet than say for music streaming or movie streaming or anything like that. But I mean, let's use the closest analogous service to video game streaming is movie streaming. There are people who, even though they have internet, their internet is so shitty they can't get Netflix the traditional way or Hulu or any of those video streaming services. So they still, have go to Redbox and shit like that. So for those people, right, it's like the whole streaming thing isn't going to work for them. And I mean,
this is where I know I beat you on this because
I didn't.
There's the thing. There's going to be problems with gaming game streaming than normal streaming because seriously,
you need more bandwidth. Yeah.
I was going to say normal streaming is one and done, while video game streaming is interactive, and
you need more bandwidth. There's more content.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. I wasn't disavowing that. But the thing is that I also had to keep in mind that, and we said this during the podcast, America has really bad internet for a lot of the middle America, more rural places. Now, if you live in your city,
I'm saying overall, even outside of America.
Well, no. Here's the irony of America, right? America has some of the worst internet in the world, even though we're supposedly a first world nation. If you go to Europe, they have better internet than we do. If you go to Taiwan, Hong Kong, parts of India even, they have better internet than we do here. Of course, the reason they have better internet in other countries than we do here in America is because
of the governmental system, of course.
Because the urban areas are all connected.
Well, actually, no. The reason, I mean, that might be a part of it, but the reason they have better internet than we do is because our infrastructure is really old. Like, basically, instead of like updating our infrastructure every 10, 15, 20 years, which is what we should have done, because our infrastructure was privately held for a lot of companies, they just basically upgraded it piecemeal incrementally every 40, 50 years. So basically, like, you still have a lot of our telecommunications is built off of the back of our fucking, telephones from back in the day and shit like that. So it's a large country. I mean, it would be a huge endeavor, but because it's privatized, they have no incentive to upgrade it. They upgrade it enough to keep it functional, not to optimize it. It's the difference between getting your car maintained and like just not actually getting the problem fixed, but just keeping it so that it runs versus getting it fixed or upgrading. Which is the problem we have here in America. Like, which is kind of sad because if you go into Canada, they have better internet than we do. It's embarrassing, really. It's like, America, we always like to say how we're number one. We're number one. We're number one. We have the best this, the best that. Our internet sucks. If you don't live in a suburb or someplace that's near an urban center, your internet sucks, which is kind of sad because, The internet is very useful.
Yes.
You know, and there's more and more services that are predicated on the internet, you know. I mean, hell, if you want to use Nintendo's online, literally a good 30% of the functionality of your Switch's functions. If you don't have internet, you're just shit out of luck.
I'd be a little more conservative, say 25%.
The reason I say 30 is because a lot of the big games for the Switch are online centric. Like if you want to play Smash Brothers, yeah, you can play the single player, but the single player is not really that good. I mean, like if you play local multiplayer, it's good, but like the single player, like the base single player, okay, it's better than Smash 4, but hell, I mean. You could step on a rusty nail and that'd be better than Smash 4's single player.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay, fine. I'm being facetious with the rusty nail quip, but it's still not. It's like when the bar. It's like, well, you know, can you jump over this bar? But you threw the broom on the floor. I mean, that's not a high bar to get over.
But I thought you were one of those people. But didn't you also say that? It's what about whatever happened to that metaphor on a fat guy winning crossing the finish line and
yeah, that was my point. Like Smash 4 single player is so shitty that anything above that seems like it's a great thing, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. You know, it's like this, okay? If someone kicks you in the nuts, okay? If every time they see you, they kick you in the nuts, and one day they just backhand you across the face, they still assaulted you, but it's better than getting kicked in the nuts. You get what I'm saying? And that's basically kind of like what the single player is for Smash Ultimate. It's like, it's not the greatest single player we've had in a Smash game, but compared to Smash 4's, it's like, well, it's good compared to Smash 4's. Like Smash, like I mean, the single player in Smash, like the strongest we had was Brawls with Subspace Emissary. Melee single player was kind of like it was like a step forward compared to the first single player that you had in Smash 64. The Smash 64 gets a lot of passes because it's the first game in the franchise. But Smash 4 is just, it's like this is okay. All right. And then Smash Ultimate, which, I mean, it doesn't have trophies. They replaced that with spirits, but spirits aren't nearly as interesting as trophies, I don't think.
I was about to say, it's like stickers.
Yeah, they just aren't as interesting to me as trophies. They're like, and I get it. Okay, they had to get this game out because the Switch needed, like the Switch. A lot of the games that are on the Switch suffer from.
Actually, it's because it's to save time, so they can focus their time on getting every single character into the roster.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of the games on the Switch feel like a lot of the games on the Switch that are really big games that aren't ports feel like they suffer from, we had to get this shit out because the Switch needed a big game at this time to keep the momentum up. And it's like you can kind of feel that like they kind of were like, shit, we got to get this game out in order. Because here's the thing though, okay, overall, right? To me, at least, is that Nintendo, even when they're half-assing it, is so much better than other companies when they're half-assing it that the average gaming consumer can't tell. But if you've been a Nintendo fan, you can see where, like, man, if they just given this another 6 months to a year in the cooker.
I was about to say, half-ass is hard to find with Nintendo. Seriously.
Well, I mean, the thing is that even when Nintendo's half-assing it, it's like okay, like I'm gonna keep it real. Okay?
I say it's hard to find it.
I think Mario Kart 8 was kind of half-assed.
But you can find them.
I think Mario Kart 8 was kind of half-assed. Okay, the lack of the battle mode, that bullshit-ass battle mode where you were driving on the back, and they're like, well, you know, look, I know you guys had to get something out to push units. I get that. but and you can tell that the game suffered because of that need for you guys to do that. And even like, you know, like, it's cool that you have all these characters in Smash Ultimate. That's awesome and everything. And you didn't have trophies because it's like you had to pick where you had to allocate resources. I understand that, but it's like I would rather have waited a year and had trophies in the game and not spirits than what we got, which is spirit, because trophies were cool because they gave you information about the game that character came from, and the different alternate trophies got like extra information. That was cool. Spirit, it's like, oh, there's a spirit. Does it have? It just gives you the name and a little bit of information. That's it. If you're lucky, because some of them don't even give you information. So I mean, I just feel kind of like, look, I understand that. Like the thing about any type of endeavor where you have to do a massive project is you have a certain amount of resources you can allocate towards certain shit, and sometimes certain shit has to suffer so that other shit can work, or other shit has to be downgraded a little bit so that other shit can be upgraded or on par with everything else. I understand that. No problem with that. But I'm not going to pretend like, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I don't see that Nintendo didn't kind of fuck up a little bit on certain things in order to make other shit work. Because I know they run a business. I know they want to make money. I know they want to have a product that's successful. I understand that. But I'm not going to pretend like they didn't, like, you know, like, I know they want to get the Switch out on time, and that's why the first batch of Joy-Con controllers were fucked up, because they were like, we got to get this shit out. I understand that. They fucked up, but I understand it. But here's the thing: Nintendo half-assed that. But but Nintendo half-assed thing. Okay, you have a little Joy-Con that's a little fucked up, but then you have Microsoft when they half-assed the Xbox 360. And you had the Red Ring of Death. So it's like when Nintendo half-assed it, it's not nearly as bad as other companies. But I'm not going to pretend like they didn't half-ass it, because they did. Because, you know,
I was going to say that it's hard to find it.
They do it. It's just not as blatant, knock on wood, but they do it. But like I said, when Nintendo's half-assing it, it's still better than most companies going full tilt. So,
is this because you're saving resources potentially for next gen?
At this point, no. It's just like that's a business thing. It's not even next gen thing. It's just a business thing. Like you allocate your resources to what you have to. Like, you allocate your because like, here's what people don't understand. Okay, Nintendo is like, of all of the big three, Nintendo is the smallest. Okay, they have a certain amount of programmers to make games. Okay, they farmed out a lot of games to other people. Like, the reason you got Fire Emblem 3, the Three Houses, so quickly is because they joined forces. Intelligent Systems joined forces with Koei Tecmo. All right, so you basically had two studios working on that game.
Yeah. How is that game, by the way?
I haven't gotten it.
What I'm hearing, it's actually pretty good from those who play it and on the other servers I'm in.
Yeah, so, you know, I haven't played it. It looks good, but I'm a little burnt out on Fire Emblem, so I'll probably get it next year. Like, I need a break from Fire Emblem for a little bit, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I need you know.
You need something like Wargroove to get out of that funk.
No, not really. It's just Nintendo like inundated the market with Fire Emblem for a while, for like 5-6 years. Fire Emblem. So I need a break from Fire Emblem. So I'm taking a break from Fire Emblem.
I was going to say though, that would, if the crowd can last without Fire Emblem for a year, that would be a good thing. But I don't think that they'll be saying no more Fire Emblem for a while.
Well, I mean, they'll probably do it after Three Houses. I mean, aside from what they're going to be supporting with Fire Emblem Heroes, like, I mean, because really, it needs a break. Bring back Advance Wars. Advance Wars has been a hiatus long enough. Bring back Advance Wars. I mean, just for me, it's just too much. I mean, you had Fire Emblem Awakening, and you had Fire Emblem Echoes, and you had in those three games, and then you had Fire Emblem Gaiden, Then you had Then you had Persona Emblem, aka Mirage Sessions, which I know is a crossover game between Fire Emblem and Persona, but whatever. And then so that's 4 Fire Emblem games. Then you have Fire Emblem Heroes 5. It's like, goddamn. Now 3 houses, 6. Goddamn, give me a break. Shit. I need a break. Damn.
I'm just looking for
or you can just not
games.
Or you can just not play the game and wait.
Which is what I said. I mean, that's what I said earlier. I'm gonna wait till next year if I get it at all. Like I'm just gonna, it's gonna take a break, Because I mean, here's the thing: with all the games coming to the Switch, there's no excuse for someone saying I have nothing to play because there's tons of shit. I mean, not just Switch. There's tons of games coming out this year.
Period.
We got something for you. If you want to play a Western RPG, we got The Outer Worlds. If you want to play a fighting game, we got what was that? Samurai Showdown coming out. Or is it already out? Well, it's out, whatever. We got another Guilty Gear coming this year, I think, if I remember correctly. They got something for everybody. If someone this year is like, I got nothing to play, it's on you. It's your ass. It's not because there's nothing out there. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, Dragon. I don't think it. I mean, of course, Nintendo's working on their next gen hardware because Nintendo's always working on their next gen hardware. I mean, you can't be a video game company and not be working on your next gen hardware.
I was about to say, at least you could hold off on that idea for a year before you pull that off.
I don't even think it's a year. I think as soon as they come out, especially with Nintendo, I think as soon as the Switch dropped, they had like a 6-month period where they looked at, okay, here's where this thing works, here's where it doesn't work. Okay, let's keep that in mind. We work on the next hardware, and then they started working on the next hardware. Because I mean, with technology, especially with iterative hardware. You constantly have to be working on your next gen stuff. In Nintendo, I mean, even though they're like, we make toys, yeah, but your toys are very tech heavy, so you kind of have to always kind of be on board with shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But we're not going to talk about Nintendo's next hardware because I don't know what their next hardware is going to be.
And I'm going to say this right now. Whoever says that there's going to be a Switch Pro coming soon, you got bolts coming out your behind.
Well, that got confirmed quickly because Nintendo announced a Nintendo Switch with a better engine.
Better battery life, yeah. So they pretty much devalued the Lite.
No, they didn't even announce a Switch with a better. They said we're gonna release an update for like a patch to make your battery last.
Don't companies do this all the time? I mean, I'm sure there was a time during the PS2 when the PS2 had like probably came out with a better firmware for their BIOS or whatever.
The PS2 wasn't an online system.
Well, yeah, it wasn't an online system. I'm just talking about different models because.
I mean, they do different BIOSes for before then, but it was mostly to prevent piracy, so that people couldn't play pirated stuff. Yeah.
I couldn't help but make that joke.
Which kind of pisses me off because the way I feel about it is especially before they had online stuff. If I buy a PS2 and I want to mod it to do other shit. Fuck you, I bought it. You got your money. kiss my black ass. I can do whatever I want to with it. Like, you know, I have 3 Wiis. One that I modded to play DVDs, and you know what? Fuck you if you don't like it, because it's mine. I bought 3 of them, and then kiss my black ass if they don't like it.
I might do with get the new Switch and use my old Switch as a mod it to do stuff.
Have fun with that, because the broken Switch is my problem with the mini Switch is that it's missing functionality that the Switch has.
Oh, I'm not talking about that Switch. I'm talking about the one with the longer battery life, because I do use the.
Yeah, but that's not new hardware. That's literally they basically added a patch for your Switch that makes it so that it's less power intensive. Which I'm like, why is it so power intensive? Because I've noticed that about the Switch. Even if you get a new battery, like it just like for some reason certain games are just really power intensive if it's in handheld mode.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know. Well, I mean, it's going to be good for people who are on the fence about the Switch. It's like, well, it's got a better battery life. You know, people who were interested in the handheld mode.
Yeah, if you're really in the handheld mode, then I guess the Switch Mini is good for you. But me, I've played enough. Between the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Color, the DS, and the 3DS. I've played enough. Like, handheld is a different faction of gaming for me. Like, I don't want my home console game to be handheld. Like, I don't know why people want that. They're like, I want to play it on the go. Yeah, but there's certain games that really do well.
Maybe it's because deep down we are afraid of change, and we wish to stay, and wish for it to stay the way it was.
I mean, maybe for certain things. I just think some games are more apropos. I think certain games are better to be on a home console versus being on a handheld. Like, certain genres are really good on handheld. If you're playing a top-down RPG, like if Square Enix was smart, instead of trying to put more and more money to make Final Fantasy look pretty, had they just downsized it and made it just a top-down, like the Final Fantasy VI style of gameplay and just kept it on handhelds, probably would have been okay to me. Like, then you would have had 2 Final Fantasies. You would have had like that grand, big ass, you know, on a home console, but then you would have had the version of Final Fantasy that would have been on handhelds. And that probably would have sold more because it would have reached a broader audience and kept Final Fantasy as being a vital IP instead of what it is now, which is a fucking joke. You know, and then there's certain games where I just don't think that they should be on a hand. There's certain games that I don't think should be on a handheld. Like Capcom released the sequel to Okamiden. And Okami is just a game that kind of has to, you know, it kind of has to be on a home console. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that game does not feel right on a handheld. You know, it just doesn't.
It doesn't have that same feel to it, right?
Yeah, it's like a 3D Zelda game. I know some people like, well, you know, a 3D Zelda game, you know, you can play it. It does not feel right to play a 3D Zelda game on a handheld. Like, it really has to be on a home console.
I was gonna say that it feels like going from 2D to 3D Zelda for the first time.
Yeah, like 2D Zelda, like once handhelds got powerful enough, 2D Zelda games, I mean, I hate to say this, should really, unless it's like a downloadable only title or like a game that's going to be on the handheld, it really, like I don't feel, And even though my favorite Legend of Zelda game is a 2D Legend of Zelda game, of all time, I just feel like certain games, certain genres of games, like 2D Mario now should really be, unless you're gonna really doll it up like Smash Brothers, or like Super Mario Brothers Wii U or something like that, Super Mario Brothers U. Like it really shouldn't be like that can be on a handheld, but for me, I just prefer certain genre of games. Like a 3D Mario game should really be on a home console, because it feels like it should be on a home console. Like it's a grand experience. Why would I put that on a little handheld? Even if the handheld's powerful, I just don't want to be looking at a tiny little screen. I have this nice floor model plasma TV.
And here's the reason why I kept on hoping to see a 3DS player. I kept on hoping to see that.
Well, don't be like Bonnie. You're gonna be holding out. You're gonna holding out hope for a long time. I don't think they're gonna do it.
I said I hope, but I already know that that's a long shot.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know how long of a shot, but I know it's a long shot.
I don't think they're gonna do it. I mean, I would be, to be honest with you, I would like for them to do it, but I don't think they're gonna do it. Even though I would like for them to do it, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. The reason why is because seriously, there are some things that deserve the big screen treatment.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like TV. Like, there's certain shit on TV where, I mean, there's certain, like, IPs where it's like, this IP would have done better as a TV show or an animated series versus being
a movie.
And then there's some movies where it's like, there's certain TV shows where it's like, this didn't need to be a TV show. This should have been a movie. So, I mean, it's like, I mean, that's basically how I feel with video games. Like, certain shit needs to be on handheld. Certain shit needs to be home console, and it just like like these people who are like, man, I want to play it on the go. No, you don't. Like, who the fuck? Like,
I would say an RPG would be one of those things.
Maybe a 2D RPG, because I remember when I got Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I went to the not Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I went to the movies, and I got there really fucking early because like I was supposed to be going with a friend of mine, and she couldn't make it. And we were gonna watch some movie. I think it was like a Marvel film, whatever. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I'm playing it, and I'm like, okay, this little tiny screen. I know the screen's not that tiny, but compared to my big-ass TV, it's tiny. And I'm like, this sucks. This just sucks. Like, I don't know why people want to play handheld mode, unless it's like a 2D game or something like that. I don't get it. But, not to mention that shitty battery life.
Yeah.
That shitty battery life.
I was about to say it depends on the system and what game you're playing, because sometimes a heavy graphics game could drain the battery a lot quicker than anything else.
Yeah, that's true. Now I will say this much though, my favorite. I'll tell you what I do like though. I am kind of a fan of No, I'm not getting that. Fuck that. I'm done. I am kind of a fan of I am a fan of some types of handheld experiences. Like I think 2D, like I said, 2D RPG is really good handheld mode. Like Pokemon's great on a handheld, which is why I think they kind of brought it to the Switch, because the Switch is a portable console that a lot of people think of it as handheld. Like the Outer Wilds people, they were like, yeah, it's a handheld. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a handheld to me because I very rarely play my Switch in handheld mode. For me, it was a passing novelty. I played it for like 2 minutes in handheld mode. I'm like, this sucks, and then I put it back in the cradle and turned on my TV. I'm like, fuck it. Why? Why would I do that? That makes no sense.
It's not bad in handheld mode, but there's some things that you cannot pull off while in handheld mode.
For me, it's just a money thing. Like, why? Like, I got my LED, I got my LED floor model TV on sale for I got 2 of them for like $500 because they were like last gen LEDs, but they're still really nice. They're just floor models and kind of big. And I got them for $500 for the pair of them. And I'm like, I spent this money on this new TV, this nice TV. Why the fuck? So that I could watch Blu-rays and up-res movies and beautiful, glorious graphics. And why would I relegate all of that to in my HD consoles so that I could play my HD consoles? Why would I spend all that money to have my shit look nice so that I could just play shit on a little tiny screen? It makes no sense to me. It's like the Chewbacca defense from
South Park.
From South Park. Like, Chewbacca
God.
is a Wookiee from Kashyyyk, and he lives on the planet. It makes no sense. It makes no
I was about to say, you're going to use that.
Well, kind of funny, but it also makes no sense. It makes no. Why would I spend all that money to up? Like, I'm literally next year, I'm going to be upgrading my basement to be more of a man cave, more than it already was. I'm pulling out my sound system and putting in a new one, making it all Wi-Fi where I can and wired where it needs to be, because wired is better than Wi-Fi more often than not, believe it or not. And so, like, I'm doing all of that. Why would I do all of that so that I can have the ultimate gaming space? But then I get a new console, but I'm gonna play it in shitty little handheld mode. That makes no sense. Why would I do all that? Why? Oh man, I built this thing so I could enjoy this shit the best way possible. But fuck that. Let me play it in this little crap handheld mode. It makes no sense. I mean, I know people who really like to play it like that. I'm okay with that. Like, you know, if that's what you like, that's what you like. But me, I can't.
Sure you do, but deep down you really don't. You want people to play how you want. No,
I mean, listen, it works for me. If someone likes playing handheld mode, I don't understand it, but good for them. Me personally, like I said, I don't really want to do it, but if you want to do it, knock yourself out. I mean,
to be honest with you, this is the reason why I'm not a graphics whore, because I see both handheld and the console mode being good things, but also it's kind of a detriment to each other because with people thinking of the Switch as a handheld, it kind of bugs me because, seriously, could you honestly take a $300 piece of equipment like that and treat it like a handheld system?
Well, I mean, here's what I'm going to say.
People spend $1,200 on their smartphones these days. You know?
Yeah, here's what I'm going to say.
I'm glad I only spent $20.
I think. Here's what I'm going to say. I think that how can I put this? I think that by the nature of handheld gaming, even though handheld gaming has come further than it's ever been, with the rise of the Vita and the Switch and handhelds like that, where it's literally like you literally have the power of the console in your hand. Like we could never really say that. Like, because with Nintendo, like the Game Boy had the power of a NES in your hands, and the Game Boy Color had the power of an even more powerful NES in your hands. It was like it was like 12-bit almost. And the Game Boy Advance was more powerful than the Super Nintendo. I mean, it had a lot of Super Nintendo ports on it, but it was more powerful than the Super Nintendo. It was a 32-bit system. Most people don't know that, but it was a 32-bit handheld. The DS was basically N64 in your hands, except like a bootleg N64 because games on the 3DS didn't look on the DS didn't look quite as good as what would be on an N64 sometimes. I mean, once you got like the early games, like once you got towards the end where you got like those like towards the end of the generation where people really knew how to pull out the hardware and stuff, it looked like a lot of those games looked really good, better than anything you'd have on the N64. But in the beginning, those games did not look as good as an N64 game, especially with the expansion part. But I mean, with the 3DS, you really started to see a jump, you know, a jump in quality to a lot of those games. And so, you know, it just kind of feels like, you know, like it just kind of feels like, you know, I mean, you know, it's just, you know, if I spend that much money, like, why would I, you know, like, why would I use it? I mean, like, for me, like any hardware, like if it's a handheld or a console or a camera, if you spend premium money on something, it's, I mean, you know, like, why would I, I mean, like, for me, it would be like buying a ribeye, right? And then instead of using that ribeye properly, it's like you buy a ribeye, right? You buy like a really prime cut ribeye, and you cook it, and then you put steak sauce on it. Why? That's disrespectful to the ingredient. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I call that creativity. Now you got me distracted.
Here's what I'm going to say to you.
Wow.
And I'm going to say this as a foodie, okay? Really good steak doesn't need a sauce. All you need is to season it, maybe dry, maybe give it a dry brine where you basically salt it and pepper it and leave it in your fridge for 8 hours. So overnight's really good, and you cook it the next day. Okay. I use the reverse sear method where I basically start it in a low oven at like 250 for like 30 minutes, and then I let it rest, re-season it with a little bit of salt and pepper, and sear it in a pan. And when you cook it like this, when you cut it open, it's nice and pink in the middle. You don't need any sauce for this. You can add sauce if you want to, but you don't really need any. The only sauce that I'll allow when I cook steak like that is maybe a béarnaise sauce, which is basically kind of like it's basically kind of like a hollandaise, but not as thick. That's about it. That's about as far as I'll go.
I almost thought that you were going for jerky.
Oh no! Oh no! You partially cook it using the reverse sear method, and then you get that nice golden crust on the ribeye, because these are thick cut ribeye. They're like 2 inches thick. You get that crust on it, that good crust, and then you let it rest. You let it rest for like 10-15 minutes, and then you slice it, nice thin slices against the grain, and it's delicious. But really good steak doesn't need a sauce. Okay? It doesn't need a sauce. It's like really good barbecue doesn't need a sauce. You can add a sauce, but if you put a good rub on your barbecue and you use a good smoke to cook it along with the heat, you don't need a sauce. I mean, sauce is nice, but like here's what I've learned from barbecuing for many years. If you go to someone's barbecue and they give you ribs or chicken and they're slathering with sauce, like before they even take it off the grill, it's slathered with sauce. That shit's gonna be dry and overcooked because they're using the sauce to mask that they fucked up cooking it.
I was gonna say that if it's near the end of the cooking, then that means that they actually are at least not letting the sauce rest on it too long.
End of cooking, yes. At the end of cooking, you can, because I've done this myself with baby backs where I've like glazed it in the last 10-15 minutes of cooking. Like every 2 minutes, I'd go slather on a thin layer of sauce while it's on there, and then let it kind of cook on a little bit, then slather on another layer. I've done 2-3 layers. that's a perfectly fine cooking technique. But generally speaking, like when people slather on sauce on the certain types of barbecue, certain cuts, it's because they didn't cook it right, and they want it, and it lost its moisture and flavor. Look, I know when I first started barbecuing, I used to do the same thing. I've been there. But as you get better at barbecuing, you figure out how to do it. And grilling. Oh man, I love the grill. Oh, it's so good.
How did it become a steak talk?
Well, I use steak as an analogy. I said basically like a truly good steak, you don't really have to add anything to it. Like I've been to restaurants where like top tier restaurants where like a plate is $100. Just a plate, right? And everything else is a la carte. The steak itself is really good. And I mean, these are high quality. These people dry age their steak where it's got a little bit of that funk, but it's still good. If you're in that restaurant and you say, "Can I have steak sauce?" They would like literally the chef would come out and slap the shit out of you, and I wouldn't be good. Like, you know what? You deserve that slap across the face. You disrespected that steak like that. That's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. Like if you go to, because I went to Japan where I had Wagyu beef, and it was like $400. Oh God, I wish someone had gone in there and said I want steak sauce.
I was about to say, did I hear that?
That chef would have came out there with a butcher knife and cut their ass, and the police would have came and said, "Go ahead, you get off, because this motherfucker asked for steak sauce."
As I said, $400 for food.
Hey, it's Wagyu beef. Wagyu beef is one of the highest grade quality steaks in the world. Like, and it's not even imported. Like, it's not even imported. Like any Wagyu beef that you get from overseas isn't even Wagyu beef, because Wagyu beef isn't imported. And you can only get it in Japan. That's it. Like, that's the only place you can get it. When I went to Japan like 4 years ago, I went there because I was like, shit, I had money at that point, and I was like, shit, I want to try Wagyu beef. I had Wagyu beef, and it is, I mean,
it was worth $400.
Oh God, it's perfectly seared. It melts in your mouth like butter, like butter. Oh God, it's so damn good. It's so delicious.
It's worth that $400.
Yeah, it was worth the $400. Like normally I'd be like, that's too much. No, this shit was totally worth it.
I have to actually be scared that something costs that much, because seriously, there's some things that may be worth over $100, but meat like that being 400.
Well,
God.
I mean, listen. Here's the way I look at it. Okay.
That beef better come with dessert and a good end too.
Come with dessert. It did come with like the $400 was the entire meal. So that was the steak, that was the beer, that was the dessert, that was the appetizer, that was the aperitif, that was the palate cleansers between. Like it wasn't just the steak, but the steak was the vast majority of that price. So
okay, it's just that hearing that something costs that much makes you wonder: is it really that?
Was it worth it?
Yeah,
yes, it was. Yeah, it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. It was like, here's the way I look at it. Okay, life is too short to eat bad food. Everyone's like, life is long. No, life is too short to eat bad food. Now that doesn't mean occasionally you won't eat some food that's not good. That's bad. You know.
Unless it's Subway.
What?
Unless it's Subway, because those have lower calories.
Sorry. If you construct your food,
Subway.
if you construct Subway a certain way, yeah, but if you add mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, onions, and plus those ingredients aren't the freshest. They really aren't. They look fresh, but they're like
Subway's
always
been
stay away from being thrown away.
on recovery. Subway's on recovery, so I wouldn't go there for a while.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't. But anyway, yeah. So basically, that's the end of the podcast. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Oh, I started watching a show on. I started watching a show on Amazon Prime called The Boys. Pretty.
Oh yeah, Isn't that
decent
fucked
show.
up, man?
Oh yeah, it's real. It's real. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm like more than halfway through the first season. That airplane scene. I won't say anything about it. That airplane scene is like.
Let me ask you something,
man. I don't think
through that picture at that woman pumping her breasts for her baby.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, that was great. Holy shit.
I mean, like basically watching The Boys is like seeing what Zack Snyder wanted to do with Superman in the Justice League, and I'm like, why did they ever give? Because like, here's the thing: The Boys is an awesome show, but I would never want the DC characters to be reimagined that way.
Yeah, it's a parody. It's a parody of those characters.
It's a dark parody. It's a dark parody. And I would never want to see Superman in that way.
Like Homelander, I think Homelander is seems like a parody of both Superman and Captain America.
No, he's Superman all the way. He's Superman. He's Superman. The Battle Maiden is she's Wonder Woman. Deep
That's the redheaded girl, right?
Yeah. Deep Dive is Aquaman. A-Train is Flash. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're all DC parodies.
Black Noir is Batman. Black Noir is Batman. What's his name? The guy who gets blown up is I don't know who the fuck he's supposed to be. He's just Invisible Man. I know. It's they're all DC. They're all based off of DC, which thank God, because I don't think I couldn't take it if they parodied Marvel character. I was like, that's no, that's a bridge too far. No.
So parody is usually funny unless it involves your favorite franchise.
What?
It's funny to see a parody poke fun of one source material unless it pokes fun of your favorite material. Not really. The only reason
I've had South Park hit me, so I
was being facetious when I said that. I mean, because one of my favorite South Park episodes is when they make fun of Godzilla, except they use star personalities, so like Sidney Poitier, Barbra Streisand, Leonard Maltin.
As I said, I already know that somehow sooner or later anything that's big is going to get hit by South Park or some parody. Some like Mad TV.
Who is Starlight a parody of? Is she a parody of Starfire or something?
No, Supergirl.
Not one of the best of shots there.
I mean, The Boys gets kind of fucked up towards the. It gets so fucked up. Like in the first episode, like the first two episodes, it's like, God damn.
Like the first 10 minutes is his girlfriend. It's already in the trailer. You see his girlfriend get.
She gets the blood mist.
Yeah.
Blood mist.
Yeah.
There's a superhero orgy where a dude who's super stretchy is able to do things.
Oh, it's sad.
I thought it was a parody of Mr. Fantastic.
There's also a guy called Plastic Man in the DC universe who's actually predates Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, they just. Although technically speaking, you could say Deep Dive is a parody of Prince Namor because Namor actually predates Aquaman. So.
Yeah, especially when Starlight and Deep Dive meet for the first time. I was like, holy crap.
Comics, that's actually the character who does that is Homelander.
Oh.
And in the show, it's like, God damn.
God dang. Not even gonna buy her dinner.
God.
Not even gonna buy her dinner, Chris.
I'm like, God damn. God. God.
Oh, man.
God.
Oh.
That whole show should be called God Damn.
Yeah, especially when you meet the Japanese chick, or I think she's Japanese.
The creature, the deadly, the female of the deadliest creature. That's her name.
Female.
She has no
female species. Yeah.
Yeah, the female of the species. Yeah, female of the species. Yeah, she is. She's pretty badass.
Yeah, she took out those guys. I was like, holy crap! I didn't know what to expect when they were
she's super.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I like it.
Yeah.
I know some people are gonna be like, "How dare you, sir?" But I like it. I think it's pretty good. And I know some people are gonna get mad. They're gonna be like, "How dare you, sir?" But I don't care. I like shit like that. That's hilarious to me. I know I sound like that asshole. The shit's funny to me.
Yeah, it's I find it funny.
Goddamn the movie. If they ever make The Boys the movie, it should be called Goddamn the Movie.
Oh man. Like my favorite part is when well, I won't spoil this part, but Cherry Bomb, the episode Cherry Bomb. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what?
Yeah,
Screw you.
The whole thing is just fucked up, the movie. It's like, okay, this is just fucked up.
But other than that, I recommend checking out The Boys if you have become a little bit cynical towards the superhero genre, or you're just interested in something different.
I mean, cynical parody is what the audience wants because of how tired they are with cliches, movie cliches. They've been seen numerous times.
I won't go that far because see how badly Zack Snyder's vision of Superman and Batman failed, and all Zack Snyder was doing was basically what The Boys is doing, except he didn't go all the way. He didn't go full retard. he didn't go all the way. Hey man, he didn't go full retard. He went half retard, and it just didn't work for him. Hey man, never go full retard. I mean, people like I think people want both. They want it both ways because like people want a Superman who's like traditional, like who's a callback to like that Silver Age Superman who is like, how's it going, citizen? Let me help you. They want that Superman, but they want Batman to be dark and brooding, which works Because Superman's not supposed to be dark and brooding, even though Superman has a way more tragic backstory than Batman.
Yeah.
Being the last son of Krypton.
Well, he thinks he's not really the last son of Krypton, but he thinks it. To him, it's he's the last son of Krypton, even though he really isn't. But I mean, like I said, like to Superman, he's the last of his kind, right? Whereas Batman, yeah, your parents are murdered in front of you, but you look, Alfred loves you. I mean, there's other human beings you can interact with. You just keep on harping on the fact your parents are murdered. Okay, yeah, there's tons of people whose parents are murdered, and they ain't going around dressing up like a giant bat, beating up people. Fucking asshole.
That sounds like entitlement, though. For you to say that.
He's right. He's entitled. He thinks because he's rich that he can dress up like a giant bat and go around beating up poor people.
I was about to say the poor people beating up poor people is one thing. Beating up the insane.
Yeah, and beating up people who are mentally ill. That's fucked up, man. That's totally fucked up. How you beat up poor people?
I would say the insane are the ones that you should be more worried about.
That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, if any of us dressed up in an outfit and went up beating up mentally, because I live in the DC metropolitan area. They pulled a lot of funding from mental health facilities, so they just put them out on the streets. So you see a lot of homeless people who are mentally ill. They have mental issues, and me just going around dressed up. Oh, you're a criminal and beating up mentally ill people. That's fucked up, man. That's totally fucked up. That is fucked up. That's fucked up, man. And people just love Batman. People are like, I love Batman. He's a terrible superhero. Terrible. Oh God, he's horrible. Like, I remember watching that Justice League episode where this guy is Batman assigns this guy to follow the Flash, and there's this guy, and like he goes to this, like, the Flash goes to this dive bar where villains hang out. And there's this guy. He's like, Wally, you're wearing the outfit again. He's like, are you taking your medicine? He's like, I don't need the medicine. I feel fine. He's like, no, you're going back to the institute. It's like, you're right. And like the Flash didn't fight anybody. He just taught the guy to go back to mental health professionals. Like, that's what a hero should do, not beat up people who are mentally insane. Why? You're a terrible hero. You're fucking terrible, Batman. You suck. You could be better. But I mean, that's what they went for. That's, I mean, if you like a parody, if you like a dark parody of superheroes, go watch Watchmen or The Boys. Or you can go on Netflix and watch The Umbrella Academy, which is a parody of the X-Men. It's a parody of the X-Men. But people also people are two minds. Like, people like parodies on the small screen, apparently, but people also like the traditional. Like, that's why people didn't like Man of Steel, because they're like, why are you fucking destroying the city and then making out with your girlfriend on the rubble? Why? That's not cool. That's a very un-Superman-like thing to do, too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've read a lot of Superman comics. I've never seen Superman fight another supervillain in the middle of a city and not try and prevent civilian casualties.
I mean, that is so un-Superman that it makes Death Battle look like it's a joke.
Like, I've read comics where Superman will lead a villain out of the city so that they can fight someplace, or they'll take it into space, right? But I mean, just fighting in the middle of the city with people around, I'm like, God, damn, this is and everyone's like, Henry Cavill's a good Superman. Fuck you, he's a good Superman. Dude's terrible. Now, how much of that is Zack Snyder's influence? We'll never know. But I wasn't impressed.
I really think that airplane scene is going to come back to bite them some way. It just seems like
no, it worked because it was a parody of Superman. Because you would have thought, okay, he's there to save people, dude. Fucking, I'm not gonna go. Okay, but if you guys get a chance, go watch that shit.
Yeah, because it just seemed like it was definitely setting something up, and it's going to come back to bite them in the ass. And yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, because they deserve it.
But with that being said, anything anyone else want to pimp out aside from us gushing madly over the boys?
Tomorrow's my birthday.
Oh, that's right. Tomorrow is your birthday. Well, if I don't see you, happy birthday to you. How old are you?
I'm going to be 27 tomorrow.
Oh. You're not at the 3-0 yet. You're not looking at the wall yet. So young. So
I'm in a hurry right now because time's running out for me.
Oh, that's not true. I mean, you know.
I'm trying to get married and have children before I turn 30.
Pinky, you're setting yourself up for a headache.
I would advise you not to put timelines on marriage and children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because seriously, you're trying to set up yourself to line yourself up to everything in the world. Yeah, that's gonna go right out the window.
I'm trying to retain my youth when my kids reach their teens because I don't want to grow gray hair like my father did when he first had me.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of it's genetic.
Yes.
Because they're young people.
Just live life as it comes because
there's people in their 20s. Hell, there was a kid I tutored who was like 12 years old and had gray hair because it was genetics. Like, so you can't really, you know. I mean,
there's a guy. My sister was hanging out with him. My sister's like 10 years older, but when I was a kid, I saw hanging out. I was like, why is she hanging out with this old guy? It was like, no, it's just I think he was just a couple of years older than she was at the time, and he had gray hairs.
Yeah, so I mean that's just genetics. Like, because I mean, you know, like I'm 33, I'm starting to go gray, but people in my family go gray early. I'm glad. Look, my father started going gray when he was in his late 20s, so I actually beat out my parents a little bit. So I mean, you can't put yourself in that type of a box, dude. You can't force someone to love you, and you don't want to jump into a relationship with someone you hate just to meet some arbitrary deadline.
Exactly.
Because believe me, when you're dealing with other people, when you're dealing with kids and someone else's life, you don't want to fuck up someone else's life or fuck up your own life and bring people into this little people in this world and fuck up their lives because you fucked up your own life trying to meet an arbitrary deadline.
Seriously.
My life is already screwed up with my arbitrary rules. And
you don't want to put that off on children
because we're supposed to live in a hard life.
No, you're not, dude. You're not. You're not supposed to live in a hard life. Life is hard, and you're supposed to make it easier by making life choices that make it easier for yourself and others around you, without being an asshole to others around you. So if you're like stealing in order to fund your lifestyle, that's fucked up. If you work hard, you relax hard. You do what you got to do. You don't.
We're not supposed to make our lives easier. We're supposed to make our lives harder.
No. No,
you honestly are blonde. With that kind of logic,
I'm not even gonna go that far, dude. Happy birthday! I hope you enjoy yourself.
That's what happens when you live in a capitalist country. You have encouraging people to work harder to get what they want.
Well, I mean,
get what they want.
Yeah, but the thing is like if you go to other countries that aren't heavily sourced in capitalism, like you go to other countries where people take a large amount of vacation days, they're happier. So no, it's like you work hard so then you can relax. I mean, that's why people retire, so they can fucking relax. Like, I ain't doing nothing but look at this wall. I mean, don't do that, because when you do that, when you just shut down when you retire, you go down faster. You need to stay active and do shit. I mean, even if you're just working in your garden or get a dog, walk the dog, play with your dog, train your dog. But that being said, anything else anyone else wants to pimp out aside from Pinky pimping out his birthday?
I guess so. Yeah, I'll pretty much go ahead because
right.
Google Hangouts on there is ending in like less than 3 hours. So I ended up pretty much getting in, I think, like 5 videos I think on my channel before it was about to close.
You can still do videos. You'll just have to use YouTube where it does it live and then it records it. It's not as good as Hangouts though. I mean, look, I'm gonna miss Hangouts when it's gone because it's really convenient, especially for podcasting. I'll be damned if I use Skype. Fuck you, Skype.
Oh God, that's a tale for a day. But I'm set in a sense.
All right, so I guess I'll pimp something out. So this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m., we will be doing our first podcast. Well, not the first, but the first post Google Hangout podcast where we'll be using we'll either be using Discord and I'll just be streaming it, or OBS. I'll try Discord first because Discord seems to be a lot easier. Because then you can just go into the chat section, everyone can talk, so it works that way. It's kind of easier actually. So yeah, or I might use OBS. It depends on which one's easier to use. With that being said, rate, comment, share, subscribe. You can leave your comments in the chat section. You can leave questions on my Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. Or you can leave me questions, topic suggestions, or if you would like to be on the podcast, figure out how to work that out. You can reach me at mrredfoxbsbusters at gmail.com. I'm about to go get something to eat because I literally woke up at 6:30 today and like I took out my trash and then I just waited till the pot. Actually, I played Monster Boy for a little bit in the Cursed Kingdom because on the Switch it's like $39.99, but on PC it was $26.99. So I was like, I want to get it on the Switch, but I'm not paying $40 for it. That being said, that's in the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. I'm gonna steal this from Shadow Fox Infinite. Do you play games to have fun or to impress other people? I don't know about you guys, but I play it to impress other people. Fuck having fun.
Yeah, right.
And also hide responsibly. Do not hide in the wood chipper.
Thank you for speaking my line.
And fuck EA and fuck Activision added monetization to what was it? Crash Team Racing. And fuck Bethesda for adding monetization to Youngblood. I'm glad I didn't get that game. I was tempted to get that game because it's $39.99, but I was like, you know what? It's Bethesda. Fuck them.
and rest in peace, Google Hangouts.
Well, it got kind of shitty towards the end when they started taking away features. So Google is Hangouts. It said that you had to die so that Stadia could live. Because Stadia looks like it's going to be some shit. Especially since they pulled a Don Matrick, and the more they talked, the shittier Stadia looked. Like before, like people had their doubts. Some people poo-pooed it at the start, but the basic idea behind it sounded cool. But then the more you talked, it was like a dude saying, "Yeah, we're gonna go out to dinner. Really, where are we going? Oh, we're going to a 5-star restaurant. Where are we going? We're going to the dollar store and just buy some shit from out the back." Man, fuck you. That's basically what it feels like. And with that being said, that's in the podcast. Peace, good night. Stay tuned to when we come back this Saturday. And bye.